Today is December the 1st, which, folks, hate to break it to you, is the first day that you can play Christmas music. Just saying. I didn't make the rule, just abide by the rules, all right? If we don't abide by the laws in this nation, we'll have complete anarchy. Christmas music starts on December 1st. Hello, everybody. Picks and roll off and running here. Sean Barnard covers all things Sixers for us on The Gambler, all things NBA as a whole. I am Sean Brace. And besides that hot take, I am hot picking games as well in the association. Back-to-back nights, we have cashed in a big way. Last night, Cade Cunningham well over his 20.5. Detroit hung tight, catching 14, if I'm not mistaken it was. It was a crazy number, so thumbs up there. Let's see if we can continue the winning ways this evening. And, oh, by the way, the 76ers back in action on the road in Boston, round 3. Let's go. Sean, good morning. How are we doing today, sir?
Yeah, doing well. Fresh off a successful Thursday night watch along. Thanks to Miller Lite last night. So good times were had there. Finally, a good football game that we had to watch there. And yeah, I was unaware until this morning, by the way, that your boy Cade Cunningham is leading the entire NBA in field goal attempts this year. So I was a little surprised to see that. So something to keep in mind moving forward.
Surprise was this, the fact that when we talked about it on yesterday's show, his number was 20.5.
Yeah.
What is going on? That dude could go and drop 30 every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a hooper. I'm a big Cade guy. I think he's a guy that comes because Detroit's still young, because there was the injury to Cade last year, a little bit underrated in the conversation for how good he truly could be. I think he's a guy that has a chance to be a legit number one star on that Detroit Pistons team as it begins to grow. So I like this Pistons team. As much as their record isn't pretty, they're a scrappy young bunch. They compete on a night-to-night basis, and a team that I think is a good team to watch as far as covers go moving forward. That they're still going to lose a lot of games, but when you get those big spreads like that, they're not a team that's going to roll over. So in kind of contrast to a bad team like the Wizards, which is probably the other bottom of the barrel team this year, the Wizards have much less optimism as far as moving forward. So I do like the Pistons as far as a team to watch.
All right, we got 2 double-digit spreads on the card tonight, but before we dive into the Sixers and, of course, the other 5 games, 6 on tap on DraftKings Sportsbook, let's talk a little about what took place last night in the association, and I just got one word to define what really did take place on all the courts across the country. Upset City. Hello. First of all, the Thunder lumped the Lakers last night, 133-110. Not too much of a surprise there as far as losing to OKC, but, man, losing by 23 to OKC, and Davis gave you 31. Lakers might be sellers at the trade deadline, or will they be looking to, of course, add and keeping LeBron in LA?
Yeah, I think when you have a LeBron James on your team, it's pretty much your responsibility to be buyers and do whatever it takes to compete. I don't think they're in a great spot as a franchise. I think we're seeing a little bit of the Austin Reeves come back to earth moments, so that this guy was portrayed as the number 3 star, and he's still a very good player. That I'm not saying he's bad by any means, but I think he might have bit off a little more than he could chew as far as expectations from a league-wide standpoint. And we're seeing a little bit of that. Last night he finished with 14 points in 29 minutes, which is fine numbers, but not exactly what they're hoping for from him. D'Angelo Russell's a guy that's very up and down. He shot 6 of 13 last night. He ended with 16, did have 10 assists, so I'll give him credit there. But yeah, the Lakers team, I think, is just a little short end on talent. I do think that they are going to take some sort of big swing, whether that's for a guy like Zach LaVine if they want to get their hands on, or DeMar DeRozan. I think there's going to be some sort of Bulls and Lakers connection as we head toward the deadline. So I still think they'll take that big swing. But yeah, I don't feel great about this organization as a whole.
Also, just want to point out that that was not an upset, so I know what I was talking about, but there was a lot of upsets in the NBA, right. Actually. OKC was favored by 5 in that. It's just, I don't know. It's something that I guess we should start getting used to. Seeing LA just getting smashed, it just seems like it's not happening right now for that squad. But I agree with everything you just said. We'll see what type of addition they can make out there in LA. Oh, by the way, just from the sports gambling standpoint, the Maverick Carter news, did that do anything for you? Did that move you at all? Does that make you question things? Like, I don't care if he does wager on LeBron James. LeBron James is not throwing games.
Yeah, no, to be honest, it doesn't change my mind on anything LeBron-wise. Maverick Carter is an interesting character when it comes to sports world. Clearly a very powerful guy, and same with Rich Paul, who has the same kind of LeBron connections. Rich Paul, I think, has done a lot more as far as building his own lane compared to Maverick Carter, but still guys that have deserved respect for what they've done. Doesn't really change anything for me, and for me, it's fair game.
It's fair game. They're in that position, number one. Rich Paul would be a different vibe though for me. I
Yeah,
won't
that's
lie.
fair.
You know, he's an agent. He's extremely connected, and I don't think he should toe that line. I think he needs to avoid that at all costs, because then it's going to get really, really crazy as far as what's being discussed and said. Maverick Carter is just another dude. He's in
Yeah.
LeBron's circle. There's no denying that. But I just LeBron James is not throwing games, people. But I'm not going to try and convince the public, because they think that Vegas calls up the referees in Dallas's stadium and said, we can't allow this touchdown. Nope, got to keep the ends. People are
Yeah.
wacko. Anyways.
On like a more serious note with that though, like I don't think this is an example of that, but that there's going to be more and more of those types of storylines as
Definitely.
we know the widespread of gambling as much as information. Like there's going to be situations like this. I don't think this is one that I'm throwing the flag on or anything by any means, but there's going to be more and more storylines that pop up with just some suspicious activity and things like that. So something to keep an eye on for sure.
This is a basketball podcast, Sean. You're supposed to say tee him up, not throw the flag. I kid. All right, let's get to it. We got a lot to discuss. Also from last night, just real quick, going down the list. First of all, Milwaukee ended up losing on the road in OT to Chicago. Let's see here. The Trailblazers went on the road to beat Cleveland, and Warriors ended up taking down the Clippers, but we'll put that to the side. Those two, though, Bucks on the road losing to Bulls in OT, and Cleveland giving it up to the Trailblazers. They were a monster underdog in that one. They went outright 103-95. Which one surprised you more?
I'll go Bulls over Bucks, and I'll start with by saying there was no Zach LaVine in that matchup, nor was there DeMar DeRozan, so very shorthanded victory there. Alex Caruso hit a game-tying three, which was awesome, that little pull-up shot. Caruso has been the guy talked about that as Chicago continues to teeter on blowing it up and making some big trades. Caruso is talked about as getting the highest price tag back as far as a trade return, which is a little bit surprising. A lot of that has to do with the contracts that Zach LaVine clearly has many years left. DeMar DeRozan isn't expiring. Caruso has one more year on a very comfortable contract value. So he is kind of a guy that is looked at as a missing piece on a lot of contenders and has the potential that when you compare to DeRozan and LaVine to get the biggest trade return. So a little bit surprising, but he's playing well, still doing his thing. And Caruso is a winner as much as this Bulls thing is a mess. It was cool to see him take the big moment last night. But yeah, I did not expect them to get a victory over the Bucks.
All right. Let's get on over to tonight's games. And of course, at the top of the list, round 3, Sixers and Celtics. They already split. One at Boston. Boston won. One at home. Sixers won. So here we are, round 3 in Boston. A little bit different scenario as far as the injuries are concerned right now with both teams. You brought up trades, though. I want to take a deep dive on the trades. What's some of the recent news involving the 76ers as far as trades are concerned?
Yeah, so a nice little NBA notebook drop from Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who's very plugged in on kind of a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Sixers have put themselves in a really nice spot to be buyers as this deadline approaches, as well as next offseason with the James Harden trade of restocking the cabinet with assets. And the Sixers roster is loaded with expiring contracts, which is very appealing from other franchises around the league because the NBA salary cap, why it's unique compared to other sports, is when you have these guys that are set to come off the books, it becomes appealing because of that taking away the money off your cap and just freeing up space moving forward. That fits the bill for guys like Marcus Morris, like Robert Covington, all these guys that they have brought in, Tobias Harris even. The guys that are getting attention, KJ Martin is one. He's a young piece that I think is not, he's not in an ideal situation for his growth. That it's a difficult spot for a young talent like him. He's a guy who played all 82 games last year for the Rockets, put up some nice numbers. He's just not getting that freedom on the Sixers, nor will that change based on their intentions to contend. So I do think KJ Martin's a likely guy that will be moved on from. It makes sense from the Sixers' perspective to flip him for a draft pick or whatever instead of kind of just if they don't believe that he will re-sign this offseason, which, to be honest, signs are pointing towards, it makes sense to get off him. And then Furkan Korkmaz carrying a little bit over a $5 million cap hit, fits the same bill that the Sixers looking to get under that luxury tax line. Getting rid of him would do that. And Furkan's survived 3 trade requests, so it makes sense to kind of give him the freedom. And as far as guys that the Sixers have been attached to, a lot of buzz growing in Toronto with OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. OG is my preference for sure, but that is a lot of kind of depends on what Toronto wants. That they have the inside track on re-signing either one if they want to pay the price, but it just doesn't really make sense if they want to do that based on how they've been as a franchise. And then Dorian Finney-Smith was a bit of a surprise name that the Sixers have shown interest in. I like Finney-Smith. I think he's made a lot more sense in a couple of years past than he does right now for this team, but still a guy that I would absolutely be willing to take on.
Pascal Siakam leading the charge for Toronto, averaging 19.9 this season. Scotty or OG. He is 14.9 right now. Both have played in pretty much all of their games so far this season. Pascal averaging 7.1 rebounds, OG 4.1, 2.1 assists. Both somewhat similar on as far as steals are concerned. Blocks a little bit more for OG there. Better basketball player, not just fit. Better basketball player. Who you go with?
Pascal's the better overall basketball player. I'm not a Pascal Siakam guy, not a guy that I'm a huge fan of as far as style of play. I just think the game looks very hard for him. Like there's never a moment where he gets easy buckets. It's constantly some Tobias Harris like mid-range turnaround kind of back a guy down. And he's a good player. He's a good playmaker, which is probably his biggest point of difference compared to OG, that he can create for others. And he does have evidence of being the second best team on a championship winner which was done with Kawhi. Kawhi obviously deserves the bulk of the credit for one of the more insane individual runs I've ever seen on a basketball court. So Pascal is definitely the better player out of the two, and probably the guy that I think is going to seek the highest value when we talk about them both approaching free agency. But as far as fit wise, I'm an OG Anunoby guy. That I think he's a nice, clean guy that can fit in between both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. He's a defensive-minded player, which appeals to me. Led the NBA in steals last year, so I'm preferential to OG, but I won't dispute that Pascal's the better player.
All right, let's get down to it. 76ers and Celtics tonight opened up at a 6-point spread, now up to 7 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Big question is, will Joel Embiid play or won't he play? Let's start there. If you had to guess, what are you hearing? What reading between the tea leaves? Not too much information out there, but he missed the last game on Wednesday night in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's tough to get a full read on it. Missed last game in New Orleans, was a late scratch for that. Didn't hear about anything up until a little before an hour before tip-off, which was frustrating from that standpoint, especially as we both stood up here and felt really good about that matchup for the Sixers before the game when Joel Embiid was intending on playing. So that was frustrating from that standpoint. Still listed as questionable on the injury report. He did not participate in shoot-around this morning, but that's not something that's super out of the norm for Joel, that I wouldn't consider that rolling out. But I will say for this one that I would wait right up until tip-off before kind of getting the call on this, because I think this is going to be one of those where they take him out on the court for pregame warmups. He gets a feel for how he's feeling, and for now, he's been away from the team. So if he's still sick and not feeling well, I think it's probably trending towards him not playing, but it is Boston, and if he's feeling up to it, I believe he will. So this is one that I would hit the pause button on as far as waiting to see what exactly happens, but pretty up in the air right now.
All right, Porzingis played really well in the 2 games, if I'm not mistaken, against the Sixers. Not playing in this one, got a little bit of an injury. He's going to be out for a little bit extended period of time. Let's just say Joel Embiid does play. DraftKings does have a player prop up for Joel Embiid right now at 31.5. Is there anyone that's going to slow down Joel Embiid if he gets out there? Should we look at the under, if he's coming back from being a little sick, maybe conditioning might not be there first game back? I don't know. Your thoughts on that player prop total at 31.5 first?
I wish I felt more confident in the Al Horford matchup. It's very frustrating to me that like Horford's still one of the guys that defends Embiid better. Porzingis being out is a factor. I think that honestly helps the Sixers from a schematic standpoint, that Embiid really struggles on stretch bigs, that he's very dismissive of guarding on the perimeter, and that's caused some issues. I get his primary responsibility is protecting the paint, protecting the rim, but when there is a true stretch big like Porzingis, and the Celtics like to play their 5-out basketball where they keep the paint open, that causes some issues for Embiid, who's much more comfortable guarding within those boundaries. So I do think it's helpful. Al Horford is certainly a guy that can step out outside and shoot threes as well, but I do think that helps from that standpoint. I feel okay about that number. The just what version of Joel Embiid is probably my biggest concern. I think I probably pass on it tonight until we can see like what he looks like. And I will say when Embiid isn't 100%, he does seem to trend towards doing more of a playmaking role. So if you want to take a peek at the assist numbers, maybe even sprinkle on the triple-double coming off a recent triple-double, that is something that I wouldn't mind. And if you do believe, and I think he'll get several more triple-doubles this year, if you believe on that, betting that on a night-to-night basis, getting that at like plus 750 odds, plus 800 odds, that does pay off if you can strike on a couple of those. So something to keep in mind there.
12-1 right now on the yes on DraftKings Sportsbook for Joel Embiid to get a triple-double, 5.5 assists, juiced up at minus 160, of course. But definitely something to keep our eyes on there. I like that angle, and why not at 12-1? Anytime you can get Joel Embiid, he's going to score 10 points. He's going to be around the rim, pulling down a ton of boards. The assist seems to be added into his repertoire a little bit more this season, of course, with Nick Nurse. So definitely something to keep our eyes on there. All right, from the Celtics standpoint, same old song and dance when it comes to this team. Taking a look at some of the numbers right now offered as far as player props. Jaylen Brown, 23.5. Jason Tatum, 27.5. Drew Holiday, 15.5. Derek White, 14.5. And that's it. There's no other player props. I know it's early. We're recording this, but man, pick your poison between Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Either one of those going over tonight?
Yeah, the number I actually like here the most is Derek White at 14.5. That Derek White is a guy that I think gets his minutes upticked a little bit when they do face the Sixers. A good matchup for Maxey, as is Drew Holiday. This is one of the more difficult matchups that Tyrese Maxey faces with just this defensive-minded backcourt of Boston. Both Drew Holiday and Derek White are the real deal. But White's a guy that has been shooting the ball really well. Just a really solid, really good player. 14.5 feels too low for him there. He killed the Sixers last game. I believe it was, off the top of my head, I think he scored 23, somewhere in that ballpark that he shot against them. White's the real deal. I feel like I never see him miss a shot against the Sixers. I think that 14.5 is a good number there.
Excellent. All right, let's keep it moving. Again, we just still too much up in the air, but 7-point spread. Where do you stand on this one, Sean? We're going to see a ball game. Sixers going to go up there and take a victory from Boston. Boston, they haven't lost at home. I think they're 8-0 this season at home. So this is a tough matchup as always. It's the Boston Celtics. Your thoughts on the 7-point spread?
Yeah, gut instinct says 7's a little too high. That I think the +7 I feel pretty good about, but I'm still just a little uncertain on pulling the trigger until there's some more clarity on the Joel Embiid situation. If Embiid plays, I would assume that number bumps down a little bit. I'm gonna guess that probably sits in the -4.5, -5 would probably be my guess for how that moves. I do think we'll get a ball game if Joel Embiid plays. I think these teams are still pretty evenly matched. The Celtics slightly better for sure, but I think that if you can get that within the +7 and then bank on Embiid playing, that's a good move, but there is risk with that for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. A little bit to TBD, and that game's being played once again at 7:30 on ESPN this evening. So game one, as far as the national conversation is concerned, will involve the 76ers. Just to point out, Sixers 12-6 ATS this season. Boston 8-8-2, 8-8-2. I've been saying that I felt like books kind of were undervaluing the 76ers, expecting them not to be as good, but it's the regular season. We know they win games. That's why I laughed at the people saying they weren't going to win 50 games. I'm like, dude, come on, man. This team's going to win 50 plus.
Yeah, it gets underrated what a floor Joel Embiid provides for a franchise, that regardless of who the 4 other guys are, Embiid gives this team a chance to win on a night-to-night basis, and that's even going against teams like the Boston Celtics. There's very few players across the NBA that hold that type of floor. Like, even if you want to compare for some guys that I don't want to say are better players, but you could argue have higher peaks than Joel if you want to think about like a Luka Doncic or something like that. Luka still doesn't have that type of floor for the Mavericks that we just saw last year, then missed the playoffs outright. That's never happening on a Joel Embiid team, that he's capable of kind of keeping a franchise above. And we've seen this in several different circumstances now. When Ben Simmons held out, when James Harden wasn't there, and then we're seeing with as Tyrese Maxey takes this leap. So yeah, this team's still going to cruise past that 50 win margin for sure. They still got a chance on a night-to-night basis. And I do agree that they've been undervalued by the book so far this year. I think we've been on the right side on a number of those.
All right, let's see if we can find a couple more here as far as these numbers are concerned on DraftKings Sportsbook. Sean Barnard, picks and roll. Let's go. Run it back. Orlando Magic at home again. They just played. They just beat up on the Washington Wizards, 139-120. Kuzma's calling out the team. Wizards are atrocious. They're 3-15 on the season. And as I said, they just played, won by 19, and here they are giving 11 this evening. What will be the difference tonight? And is this one of those NBA games where it's like, man, these guys are professionals? Yeah, it was easy 2 nights ago, but guess what? They're running it back and expect a better performance from Washington. Where are you on this one? 11-point spread.
Yeah, I kind of refuse to just bet on Washington at this point. That team is such. They're not fun to watch. They're a bad team. Like, I think some process Sixers team would give this Wizards team a run for their money. I really do feel that way. And you would think a top end punch of Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma would provide something for a team, but it just doesn't connect to winning. And I think that's been a criticism of each of those guys in different situations throughout their career. So I like the Magic to cover the -11 there. I continue to pound the table. The Magic are the real deal. I think they have a chance of being a top 6 team, top 6 seed in the East when the playoffs come into it this year. I think they're going to finish around that 5 to 6 line. A lot of these guys are growing up and developing right between our eyes. Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero. They got a ton of young talent in a way that the Wizards just don't. I think the Magic cruise and blow out them again here.
All right, 11-point spread. Let's keep it moving. 7:40 p.m. We got the Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks right now holding steady at 10. Opened up at 10.5. Nope, excuse me, 9.5 now, down to 9.5. Memphis on the road. 230 is your total in this one. Last time I remember anything from Dallas this week was Jason Kidd cursing, which he doesn't normally curse. Very cool, calm, and collective, but had his players back saying, you know what, write something positive here. They're putting it together down in Dallas, 11-6 so far this season. Once again, 9.5-point favorites tonight against Memphis. Anything for you on this one, Sean?
I lean toward the Mavericks side on this one as well. The Grizzlies, they're in a world of trouble as well. There was a clip going around of Marcus Smart like really yelling at the team on the sideline that got some attention. And Marcus Smart feels like the right type of vocal leader that team needs, and it just doesn't feel like it's connecting. The guy that's disappointed me the most has been Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm a huge Triple J guy that I think he's tremendous as a talent, but he really just not has played well this year. That he hasn't asserted himself in the way that he should. He's too good to be playing this bad. So I think there's a chance where once he starts to wake up and pull himself out of it, the team follows a little bit and they start to climb towards 500 or at least closer in that direction. They're obviously still waiting on John Morant to come out. But until that happens or we start to see those signs, I'm staying away from it. And on the other side of things, the Mavericks have been playing really good basketball. When you have Luka and Kyrie on the roster, you have a chance to blow a team out on a night-by-night basis. So give me the 9.5, and I think this is going to be, unfortunately, not a great game to watch either.
All right. Next game up on the DraftKings card. Let's head north of the border. Toronto and the New York Knicks. Knicks played last night, beat Detroit, did not cover the number. Last time we saw the Raptors, they beat the Phoenix Suns at home 112-105 on Wednesday night. Right now, DraftKings Sportsbook showing the Toronto Raptors listed as a 2-point home favorite. 217 is your total in this one. Of course, trade rumors are out there. Is that something that's going to maybe send a shockwave through Toronto's locker room and have them guessing a little bit? Or are you going to ride with them as far as the favorite here coming out with a victory tonight?
The play I probably feel the best about is the under of 217 in this, that both these teams play with fairly slow pace, and Raptors not a great half-court scoring team. I probably lean toward the Knicks getting the win in this one, but not a side that I feel super comfortable in. I don't think the trade rumors are going to mess with the Raptors too much. That I think as far as like for starters, a lot of these guys kind of control their destiny, that with OG and with Pascal being free agents at the end of the year, that even if they are shipped off, they can sign wherever they want. And I think more of it is Toronto trying to figure out what their outlook is from here. That we've seen them let guys like Kawhi Leonard just walk out of the door without getting anybody back. Fred VanVleet this summer walked out of the door, signed with the Houston Rockets, and the Raptors just let him go for free. That's not a successful way to run a franchise. That you don't want to let your best players get away for free without getting something in return, which makes me believe they should accelerate the trade talks. But for now, they're still kind of all playing for their future contracts. I think there is some stat hunting going on across the border up in Canada a little bit. So give me the Knicks slightly, and I do like the under.
All right, excellent stuff. 8:10 p.m. We're going to go to New Orleans. We just watched them beat up on the 76ers without Joel Embiid, but tonight they're taking on a really lowly San Antonio Spurs squad. 12.5 point spread, 237.5. Anything for you on San Antonio's side that could keep this close?
Yeah, I kind of think that there is a cover from San Antonio here. I lean towards the plus 12.5 for sure. I'm excited.
Why is that?
I'm very curious how the matchup of Wemby versus Zion looks. Like, I think that's going to be a fun one as far as two guys that are polar opposite body types. I kind of think Wemby's going to give him a little trouble on one of the things that has jumped out at me for the way that Wemby guards guys is he's very good about kind of letting them, and Chet does this in a similar way, attack the chest and just basically have the hands up and swallow a shot. Zion attacks in that way where he attacks at a guy's chest. I think the wingspan and the way that Wemby is able to kind of just swallow a guy is going to be kind of effective there. And Zion, when that tends to happen, this is something that he needs to work throughout his professional career, that he gets determined, which I like, but it kind of spirals in a way where he keeps going back to the well in a way that does not work. I still think that there's a little bit of them figuring out the pecking order with CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion. That is a work in progress there. And the Spurs, like, as bad as they've been, to me, it feels like they're due to start breaking out of this. There's too much talent for them to be like, as like, if we want to compare them to like a Wizards team, this Spurs team is significantly more talented than that Wizards team. So I do think that they're going to be playing better basketball. They're starting to figure out. Jeremy Sochan coming off an awesome night last night, scored 33 points there. He seems like he's putting the pieces together a little bit, and the development is working. So I think the Spurs are trending in the right direction. I think the Pelicans are still figuring things out, and I am very excited to watch this Wemby versus Zion matchup.
Oh, I love that. And hopefully
Yeah.
we get one of those Zion dunks over Wemby. I think that would shock the system for a lot of people out there on the timeline. I think that'd be awesome to see. Now, let's pull an audible here and go away from the card. Let's talk about the award market in the NBA. And I want to focus on the rookie of the year because we had a shifting of the odds for top dog right now. Chet Holmgren, who was your preseason pick to win rookie of the year. No arguments. I didn't mind it. I also was riding somewhat with you to the point that I thought that because we know the history of how the Spurs treat their players, meaning with the rest and all that, I didn't think Victor Wemby was going to play 90% of the season. I don't know, Sean. I think he will. Like, I don't think that that's going to change. He's plus 110 right now to win rookie of the year. How the hell is Victor not going to win rookie of the year this year? And be honest, Chet's amazing, but when it comes to writing the name down for voters, this dude Wemby is not the rookie of the year. What? Tell me, where are you at?
I mean, I'm a Chet guy. I got Chet at plus 475 dating back to this summer. Feel great about that. This is a fun race. They're very two similar archetypes of players. I think we're gonna get a little bit of a resemblance of the Donovan Mitchell, Ben Simmons rookie of the year debate, as Chet obviously had the year to survive in a professional setting, learn the ropes of the NBA grind. Wemby coming in, who has a professional background as well, so it's not as clean of a comparison there. But as far as why Chet's in the lead, number one is efficiency. His efficiency number is significantly better than Wembanyama on the season. Chet, as far as what he's shooting, beyond the three-point arc, 41%. From the field, 53.7%, and just under 90% for the free throw line, 87.1. So as a rookie, a 50, 40, 90 guy is super impressive. 17.9 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 2.1 blocks, and 2.6 assists. That's like borderline all-star numbers if you can keep that up. And Wemby's been terrific, but I think the fact that the Thunder are in a legitimate contending spot, that Chet very much is stepping up on a night-to-night basis. He is that number two option on a lot of nights. Jalen Williams in the mix as well, and they got a number of other guys who step up. But Chet really is the sidekick to Shea. So I think that matters in the context of things, that they are a contender. He is being successful. He's very efficient, the better overall defender, I would consider. And then Wembanyama, it's felt like there's still some growing pains as far as he has nights where he doesn't shoot the ball well. He has nights where we don't see the full impact that we expect to. And the Spurs sitting right by the bottom of the table. So I think how good the team is matters. I think the efficiency matters, and it's going to be a race. I don't think Chet's going to run away with this by any means. And I will say Wembanyama has played far more than I expected to this point, which was a big reason why I lean toward Chet in this race. But it's going to be a fun one. I still think Chet's been overall a little better as it pertains to winning. So that is the edge for me, but it's going to be fun going down the stretch.
Excellent stuff. Oh, yeah, it's definitely one of the more focal points for the sports gambling world when it comes to the association. Like, that's definitely the one market that everybody's looking at. MVP's MVP, but man, this year, rookie of the year, there's a couple names up there, and injuries come into play. We know that. It sucks. It's just the reality. One sprained ankle here or a tweaked hamstring there, and next thing you know, that market can flip on its head. So, hey, bottom line is, shout out to you getting that number on Chet. He looks great, man. He had another turnaround jumper. Was that last night that we were looking?
Oh, yeah.
It was sick. Very nice.
Very Kevin Durant like.
Yeah. And he's just coming into his own, really looking good. And of course, year one for him getting injured last year. All right, let's get on to the sixth and final game over on DraftKings Sportsbook. And speaking of injuries, Devin Booker rolled his ankle in that game against Toronto. Phoenix ends up losing. The Denver Nuggets were dealing with a ton of injuries. I know Joker came back. I know Murray came back. I don't think Gordon has come back yet. Still, Murray is kind of in that day-to-day range, but will play. I expect him to play tonight, and I think the odds makers do as well, as Denver is listed as a 2-point road favorite at Phoenix this evening. 225.5 is your total on that one. All the names are listed as far as props are concerned. Well, no, I take that back. The only one right now is Kevin Durant and Joker, but for first bucket, they have everybody up there. Of course, that's an easy fix. Anyways, to the game itself, Denver, 2-point favorites. Are they going to just win outright in this game in your mind?
Yeah, I like Denver to win out right here. I'm having a tough time getting a feel for the Phoenix Suns from a night to night kind of situation. It feels similar to the Brooklyn Nets, where during the Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving era, where you just don't know what combination of guys you're getting on a night to night basis. As far as the Nuggets injury report, both Murray and Aaron Gordon listed as questionable. Seems much more likely that Murray will play than Gordon. I would probably guess that Gordon still misses this. He's dealing with a bit of a heel issue that's kept him out. I still think the Nuggets are just kind of the well-oiled machine going against the individual talent of these Suns. Devin Booker has been very much the engine of that team. The rolled ankle is a big deal for that. His playmaking has been tremendous to start the season, averaging a little bit under 9 assists per game, which is super impressive for him. So for me, I'm going with the Nuggets here. I just feel like their floor is significantly higher as a team, that they can beat the Suns team without playing 100% their best ball, and I don't feel the same way about the Suns. So give me the Nuggets in this matchup.
Excellent stuff. Sean Barnard, as always, man. Nobody does the association like you. Just as far as these games tonight for me, I'm leaning towards Orlando. I like your breakdown on that one. 11 points. I just think the Wizards are a lost cause, and Orlando
Yeah.
has that pep in their step. They're young. I don't think that they're going to take the foot off the gas this evening. So I'll roll with Orlando on that one. Definitely like Denver on the road. I think it's telling as their 2-point favorites. Look, no Booker. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that they're going to have the horses to compete down low with Joker. So as long as he's healthy out there, I think they come away with that victory, hopefully not by one, although minus 130 on the money line is probably what I'll end up doing. And if I could find a third one, I'm not going to touch anything else. Those are the two. That's my two plays on the spreads. I'll take those and see what happens as far as that is concerned. Again, we don't have a player prop market, so we can't really get too much in detail there. But if you had to give me one player from Orlando that's going to score the most, let's just say that, who's the leading scorer for the Magic this evening?
I'd probably go Franz Wagner would be my answer there. That I'm a big Franz guy. I think Paolo hasn't taken the step forward as a scorer. He absolutely has, as far as the other areas of his game as it pertains to winning. When we talk about defense, playmaking, rebounding, doing the little things, but Franz Wagner on a lot of nights takes the reins as far as the lead scorer. I would guess his number probably comes around the 23.5, somewhere in that department. And I still feel good about the over, that he's a guy that can really score on all three levels. Good shooter. He's got great size. He's like 6'10", can still put the ball on the floor and create. So Franz Wagner is probably my guy. And keep an eye on Jalen Suggs as well, that his number has been coming in way too low. He's really become kind of the heart and soul of that Magic team. He competes every single night with such a high level that is really fun to watch. So Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner are probably the two I keep my eye on there.
All right. Excellent stuff. I just saw something on the timeline. Speaking of the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant said he will be not rocking the Anthony Edwards ones.
Yeah, I did see that. I do love
he said the quote, "Won't ever see me put a big toe in those mother effers."
And I do think that's a little bit of a reference to the big toe being over the 3-point line a couple years ago with the Nets. That really kind of cost the Nets the championship there. So very funny, but I do love all the little underlying shoe beefs as far as who's with what company there.
Was that game 7?
Yeah. Pushed it to overtime rather than the win, and then Bucks took it home from there, and Bucks won the championship there. So we got a very different history if that doesn't happen.
Yes, that's exactly where my mind was going, because they had the 3, right? Well, that was Harden, Durant, and KD, or Kyrie.
Yep. That was that year.
What happens if they win the championship that year? Like wow, it's just crazy if they actually got it done and James Harden actually won a ring and, Kyrie was there. Like, who knows what everything takes place from that point on, but it didn't. And Kevin Durant's big toe was over the line or on the line. So what can you do? Sean Barnard, great stuff as always, man. Sean_Barnard1. That's the number 1. Be sure to follow him. Picks and Roll, the podcast, available at foxphogambler.com. I'm sure we're going to be recording over the weekend. We got a big college football night tonight as far as the Pac-12 championship game and Conference USA championship game as well. So good luck to everybody. We're going to have beef up front here on the station. That's coming up in the next hour. So do not touch that dial. All things college football coming your way. Ryan Coyle on Beef Up Front. Sean Barnard, excellent stuff, my friend. Good luck on all your plays. And hopefully we're talking over the weekend about a Sixers victory against the Celtics.